It, like, okay. Hi, it's B. Corey. Welcome to my channel. This meal prep was a fail. It was a fail in the sense that it wasn't the quick, easy, simple meal prep that I like to do. It was draining. It took forever. I started at 9:30 in the morning on a Monday, and I had to stop at 5 p.m. I'm sorry, at 4 p.m. because I had somewhere to be at 5. So I wasn't even finished. I just had to stop 9:30 to 4 and to not be done. And in my opinion, the work wasn't worth what I got, but whatever. What my snack is for today isn't any different than what I'm going to show you for what I made for my second meal. No end of the week edits for this one. So starting first with the tofu nuggets, this is linked below. This recipe is linked below. I started off with my nugget mixture, which I believe was like flour, baking powder, and some almond milk. That didn't sound like it was going to be enough flavor, so I added a bunch of other seasonings to that as well. Some mustard, thyme, onion powder, cayenne pepper, nutritional yeast, basil, oregano, garlic powder. And I gave that a mix and made it until it was kind of that thicker consistency. So I mashed a block and a half of tofu with a fork. Next I added one medium russet potato that I shredded with a cheese grater, and then I added half a cup of blitzed oats, some soy sauce, and I actually added some more seasonings at that point. I was really happy with the texture of this at this point. It was sticking together really well, so that made me confident that I would also fry really well. And then I went ahead and just patted them out into chicken nugget-esque shapes. I put some parchment paper on top of that first layer of nuggets, and then I made another batch on top. So in total I had 36 nuggets. Threw these in some vegetable oil, and they fried up really nicely. They got actually really crispy, and they stayed crispy the whole week. I just heated them up in a toaster oven. This is the final result. I sprinkled salt and cayenne pepper over the top, and then I also wanted to give you all a little texture shot so you could see inside. I didn't film this because, again, it just was taking forever to get through this meal prep, so pieces of this I just couldn't get around to filming. But I did make a nice little quinoa salad to go with it. I boiled some quinoa, and I added a Roma tomato that I just happened to have in the fridge, some parsley, some salt and pepper, and then the top of a red pepper that you will see me cutting up for the next meal that I'm going to make. I just grated some of my parents' parm cheese on top, and this was a really refreshing little side salad. I did add a bit of barbecue sauce to the plate to dip my tofu nuggets in. I think next time I make these, and I do really want to make these again, I would add either barbecue sauce or hot sauce to the actual mixture to help give it some flavor. Yeah, there's probably just a bunch of different things you could add to give the actual nugget flavor, but I am really surprised by how these turned out. I was pleasantly surprised by these, although they do need a little bit extra oomph. For this next recipe, I made crispy curry wontons in a cabbage stir fry. So the veggies that you see chopped up here are half a head of cabbage that I actually shredded against a cheese grater, half a container of white mushrooms, and maybe a cup of carrots. Recipe called for chives. I had some green onions, so I used that instead. And over here, I'm just roasting the garlic and sesame oil before I add all of the veggies into the pot and let them just cook until they're wilted down a little bit. While that's wilting down, I went ahead and made my own homemade curry powder. Recipe is linked below, but I went ahead and added some cumin, some coriander seed, ground coriander, ginger, turmeric, some ground black pepper, some nutmeg because we didn't have cardamom, ground mustard, cinnamon, and cayenne pepper. This was a really easy recipe to make. It smelled just like curry powder. This is what it looked like after it was all mixed together. And yeah, So if you just happen to have all of those seasonings, that's probably a little bit more cost effective than going out and buying a container of curry powder, which for me it was. So that is the reason why I opted to make my own, just to cut costs. So next, into the crispy curry filling, the recipe calls for pumpkin, mashed pumpkin. I don't like pumpkin that much, so I went with butternut squash instead. I roasted a whole butternut squash. I halved it and drizzled each half with salt, pepper, and olive oil before I popped it in the oven on 400. What you see here is actually what I'm freezing, and that's going to be a side for one of my meals for next week. And what you see in the bowl is actually all I'm using in the recipe. And y'all, let me know if I'm crazy, but I did not see at any point to add soy sauce or the curry powder to this actual mixture. So I just added the curry powder when I added the butternut squash, and I opted not to add the soy sauce because I thought, yeah, I was nervous about it making the inside of the filling too like liquidy for the wontons, so I didn't do that. I should have. It needed some salt. But yeah, so I just added the curry powder in at this point and mixed it all, took it off of the heat while I went and prepped for my cabbage stir fry. So what you see here are the veggies that I am putting in the stir fry: some celery, red pepper, carrots, half a red onion, a few garlic cloves, edamame, and then of course the other half of that cored cabbage that I used earlier for the fillings. I wanted all of the veggies to be kind of like long, so I first cut the carrots in half and then just sliced it down the long way again to make them more sticks than like discs. And if there were pieces that were still a little too big, even after I quartered them, I just took my knife and ran it down the middle to make it all kind of the same size. The top of the red pepper is what I actually added to the quinoa off screen, but for the rest of the red pepper, I sliced it lengthwise, and then I just did larger chunks. I just cut it in threes to make them again long, kind of the length of the carrots. Similar with the celery, I sliced it lengthwise and cut it to be about the size and length of the red peppers. The red onion I just diced as usual, nothing fancy. And then the edamame was already shelled, so I just took 2 handfuls of that and added it to the bowl. For the cabbage, I sliced it lengthwise to create shreds, almost like noodles. And yeah, this is what it turned out to look like. Okay, so my camera died at this point. It was late. It was probably like 2:30-ish. So I've been at it for a minute. But yeah, so this pan, it had, or I guess it's going to be over here. I just had the curry wonton filling in it, so I just put that in a separate bowl while it cooled down, and I used that same pan, drizzled a little bit of olive oil in it, and put the cabbage in it and let it wilt down for a minute, or like 7 to 8 minutes. It didn't take that long. When it got to this browning point, I took it off of the fire and I went and added all of my veggies in. And again, I did have 2 cloves of garlic as well in there. I also had added some ginger and some soy sauce. I should have added a little bit more soy sauce. And I also added some pepper to it as well. And I let all of the liquid cook out and waited until the vegetables browned, put it in its Tupperware, and that was it. Next, I moved on to the wontons. So what you see here is the filling, just a small helping of the filling in each wonton. I used some water to make an L shape across 2 sides of the wontons before I folded it on itself to create a little triangle. And I took one leg and pinched it up towards the peak. I took the other leg and pinched it up towards the peak, and you get these cute little dumplings. I did use a whole packet of wontons, and I still had this bag of filling left over, so that is in the freezer and it's going to be inspiration for another day. But look how cute these wontons turned out to be. Really, really proud of these. So yeah, I just added these into the oil. I didn't change it between the tofu nuggets and this. I did add some more though so that they were completely submerged, and I just let them go until they got crispy brown. This is the inside shot for you guys to see. Yeah, they really just needed more flavor. Like my whole thing with this was it wasn't worth the work basically, and that might have been because I fried two things that needed kind of a lot of attention. I am not gonna lie, I am happy I made those tofu nuggets because I really do want to make them again. But these wontons, they were cool, they were good. I'm eating them now. I just don't think they were worth the work. Yeah, I don't think they were worth the work, honestly. But I would make this cabbage stir fry again. I would have sauteed my cabbage in with garlic and probably some pepper and maybe some chili flakes. And then for my veggies, I just wish I added a bit more soy sauce. But when I heated this up in the oven, I did add salt to the wontons. I just added garlic powder and pepper to the cabbage, and then I just drizzled some soy sauce over the veggies, and that did help it a little bit to make it a little bit better. And then I also used, as a dipping sauce for this, I just used some honey mustard that my parents had in the fridge, and that was actually a really tasty condiment to add. I was surprised that it worked so well. But yeah, were these nasty dishes? Not at all. I just don't think they were worth the work that it took. These were literally 2 new recipes and 2 made up recipes. The quinoa salad and the cabbage stir fry were something that I just came up with. So it was kind of a lot in that sense that, you know, I wasn't used to these recipes. So I was like going back to my phone to like look at them over and over again. There's a lot of prep that goes into like blitzing the oats before their oat flour for the tofu nugget, pressing the tofu, shredding the cabbage, shredding the russet potato, chopping up all the veggies. It just got really time consuming, and there are a lot of steps to each of these. So it took forever. It took forever. So this next recipe was an actual fail. Like I actually couldn't eat it. So I'm really not going to focus that much on the recipe, but I will give you all a laugh at how poorly this turned out. I've made banana oat pancakes before. I don't think the recipe that I used is the recipe that I used the last time, but I just looked up something to get the proportions. Maybe they had the wrong proportions. I don't know, but it didn't turn out. It didn't turn out, y'all. So I'm gonna speed through this and just show you the fail. But yeah, banana, oats, almond milk in a blender with cinnamon and some vanilla extract. This is the batter. Woo! This is like actual raw batter. That's not even like undercooked. It's just raw. So I did what I tell chopped competitors to do when they notice that their ice cream isn't making ice cream and they still have time to turn it into something else. I'd be like, just throw some flour in there and turn it into a cake or a cookie so you can actually present the judges with something. I told myself to follow my own notes, and I added some flour, some baking powder to the batter, and I put it in these cute little cake pans. I popped it in the oven. This is what they looked like after like 45 minutes, and I was getting really excited, but I could tell they were still doughy. So I put them back in the oven for another like 30 minutes, and I did the knife test. If you don't know, you can stick a knife or a fork in your baked ingredients, and if you pull it out and it's wet, you know that it's not cooked all the way and you need to let it keep going. So at this point, it was like hour and 15 minutes, hour and a half, and it was still raw batter coming out on my knife. I was really sad. So I finally just took them out because the tops were done. And I peeled the tops off, and this is what I had. Such a fail. My brother came downstairs and was like, "Oh, you put peanut butter on top." That's not peanut butter. That's the raw batter of my cake that didn't bake. And mind you, this is the second day, so this is my meal prep stumbling into the second day because I couldn't get it all completed on the first day. So I was already pressed about that, and then it didn't even turn out. So it was like a 3-hour process for something that was supposed to be easy. I was about to make some little pancakes. I ended up taking the tops off of the cakes because those actually were done, and I just put the other side that was touching the raw batter. Not that it was inedible, but like you don't want to eat that. I just put it on the stove to get it as crispy as I could get it. And this is what I ended up with, some banana bread French toast top things. Were they good? Did I eat them? Yes. With a big mug of tea. And I only made like 4 of these, so I just had it for a couple of days this week. But yeah, such a fail. Yeah, it took such a long time for it to fail, which was another stressor. Like, you could have failed. I guess it did fail early on. I guess I did know it was a fail. I just was trying. I was really trying, y'all. I was really trying. I don't want to talk about it. It hurts my heart. I did say I was going to show you guys my grocery cart. It's not going to happen. I'll do it next week. It took all of 30 minutes to make my food for next week. It's already done. It's all in the freezer. I just have to pull it out and let it defrost. So when I am in better spirits next week, I will show you my grocery cart, because again, this week and next week we're all part of the same grocery haul. In the meantime, I'm going to enjoy this weekend and the food that I have left, and I'm going to be grateful that I even have a kitchen to cook in and money to go grocery shopping with, and we're going to radiate love, light, and joy. As always, thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one. Be sure to give this video a big thumbs up. Be sure to also subscribe for me. Leave any questions, comments, or concerns that you have for me down in the comments below. I will see you in the next one. Peace.